Today, I'm going to debunk some of the myths around buying a home in Seattle so that hopefully you can see that there are actually some great opportunities to land a house right now. Myth number one is that you do not need to be underwritten to purchase a home. And I actually talk to buyers all the time who think that they can wait to get pre-approved until after they see the house, fall in love with the house, and then they go get pre-approved. And this is actually a big mistake. And the reason why this is actually a mistake is because getting pre-approved or even pre-underwritten can take as long as a week. And in Seattle, homes tend to sell really fast. Oftentimes in this area, homes come on the market on Wednesday or Thursday, and then they're gone by Saturday or Sunday. And in some cases, they'll do what's called an offer review date. That means they're going to hold off most likely to actually entertain offers until that's usually Monday or Tuesday. So if they come on the market on a Wednesday or Thursday, then the offer review date is on a Monday or Tuesday. That means less than a week, this home is going to be gone. So if you are waiting till Saturday or Sunday to see the house, you fall in love with the house, most likely you're going to miss it because it's going to take a week or so to get that pre-approval, or better yet, underwritten approval. Myth number two is that pulling your credit report will actually impact your score. I hear this from buyers all the time. They're very concerned that when they're shopping lenders that this is going to impact their credit. Here's the reality. Here's the truth. You can have your credit report pulled as many times as you want within 30 days and it will not impact your score. So breathe a sigh of relief. You can shop multiple lenders. So here's the thing. You could talk to multiple lenders. However, I wouldn't recommend getting approved by multiple lenders. I think talking to multiple lenders is definitely great because rates do vary out there and you're going to get a sense of what works best and who works best with you by talking to multiple lenders. But figure out who you like, who fits best with you, and then go ahead and work with them. By getting fully underwritten, you're actually going to be able to write a much more competitive offer, which if this is your dream home, you actually might want to compete in a multiple offer situation. Chances are that if you find yourself in a competitive situation, there are going to be people out there that you're competing with that are going to be removing their contingencies. And you want to be able to put your best foot forward with the least amount of risk possible. And having that underwritten approval is really going to help you eliminate a lot of the risk if you decide with your realtor to eliminate some of those contingencies. Now, the other thing about getting an underwritten approval is it's really going to help you understand what your budget is. I see so many buyers out there that don't have an approval or an underwritten approval, and they go out, shop for a home, only to find out they can't afford it, or they think their budget is actually a lot less than what they can afford. And so when they go get that approval, they're actually surprised they maybe can afford a little bit more. So get with your lender, eliminate the risk so that you're armed with all the information you need to have the greatest success. Speaking of budget, I would actually recommend getting approved for the maximum amount that you can afford. And I know this is a little counterintuitive out there, especially when we have this artificially created budget in our minds that we want to stick to, but getting pre-approved for the maximum that you can afford is going to set you up for success, and it's going to give you more information to play with. When my wife and I went to go buy our first home, we wanted to be very careful about budget. We had our artificially created budget in our mind. It was lower than actually what we could stretch ourselves to if it was hard. And my wife's parents actually said, you know what, you should stretch beyond what you think is even capable, because listen, you're at the age group where your income is only going to go up. And so we actually stretched our budget a little bit. We bought the house that we really wanted, and we're so glad we did because we still own that house today and it's providing great rental income for us. And had we gone with our artificially created budget, we would not be homeowners today. So here's the issue. If you find your dream home and you've been pre-approved or underwritten approved for this lower number that you came up with rather than your lender, and it's this artificially created budget number, and then you see this dream home, you fall in love with it, and let's say it's $200,000 more, the price point is around 1.5 million, and you want to go $200,000 higher because you think that's where it's going to land, you might not have time to do that with your lender if you have to act quickly. And so take the time to get pre-approved for your maximum budget allowed. So here's the thing, nobody's going to make you spend more money on the house. These are your decisions, and it's just going to help you make a more informed decision moving forward. And so trust the process, try that out, and I think it's going to set you up for great success. Side note, you're also going to want to make sure that your dreams are really in line with your reality, and this underwritten approval process is going to help you do just that. It's not that buyers wouldn't change things if they knew that they could, they just don't know what they don't know. So get the information and you're going to be better prepared to have a great experience finding that dream home and writing the offer. The next myth is that Zillow and Redfin are actually going to tell you what you can and can't afford. And the reality is it takes just a little bit more work than that. I'm going to tell you an exercise right now that we do with our clients. You could do this with your agent, or you could reach out to me and I can do this for you, or you could do it yourself, it takes a little bit of work, but it's going to save you a lot of time and energy if you put the work in. So what you want to do is actually what I call a backward looking exercise, where you go back and you pull all the sales criteria, let's say for the last 6 months, for the homes that fit what you're looking for, let's say 3-bedroom, 2-bath, yard size, all the things. And once you pull this, you want to go through and say, okay, which of these past sold homes were the ones that I like, that I would have bought? Now, you don't know for sure because you haven't walked through them, but you can look at the pictures to get a pretty good idea. We actually use the Windermere app for this, and you can go through and you can go and star the ones that you like and take notes even and pass that on to your realtor. This is going to be really helpful information for your realtor and for yourself. It's a great educational process. Oftentimes we go out with our clients who want to purchase a home. We look at 6 or 7 homes and they're like, can we take this kitchen from this house, put this yard, combine them? The reality is it doesn't work like that. And there's such limited inventory in the Seattle market that you might only be interested in 1 or 2 homes, and you'll find that you just don't have a viable search. And so when there's really no homes available for you to look at in your search criteria, then there's only 3 things that you can do to change it up a bit. The first is, if you're lucky, you can change your budget. Now, not everyone can. And the second is you can actually change the neighborhoods that you're interested in. And lastly, you can change the size of the house. So maybe you don't really need a 3-bedroom, maybe a 2-bedroom is fine for now. This may require some conversation with your realtor, or actually some due diligence on your own, or both. You want to find what are some of the neighborhoods that you actually might be able to get into for a lower price point. At the end of this, you really want to figure out, let's say, how many homes sold in Green Lake versus Bellevue, and that's going to help you really determine where you actually might be living. Because if you see that there are 0 homes available in Bellevue and there are 10 homes available in Green Lake, there's a pretty good indication that if you like Green Lake, that is going to be your place where you're living. So you want to really start to educate yourself for your own purposes, for your own emotional well-being. This is going to really set you up for a great search and a successful home buying experience. Depending on the price point in neighborhoods, this really changes. And also the price per square foot in different neighborhoods changes. You want to figure out, do you get more or less in Green Lake versus Bellevue? So understanding all these things on the outset is really going to help you know a good home when you see it. And so you don't have to spend an entire year hunting for a house only to find that your heart is going to get broken because you weren't prepared. Getting your feet inside these homes and checking them out when you have this information ahead of time, these data points, is really going to help you set yourself up for success. Now, the other data point that you want to check out is the list to sales price ratio, because if the home is, say, listed at $1 million, but most homes listed at $1 million are selling for $1.2 million, you're going to want to know that information as well so that you can adjust your expectations when it comes to making an offer on these homes. Myth number 4 is that you can actually wait to go see the house that you love until the weekend. Now, while this may be true for some homes, you're going to be able to figure this out by looking at the data points of previously sold properties. But here's the thing. If it's a great home that checks all the boxes, most likely it is checking the boxes for somebody else too. And they are probably calling their agent within seconds of that home hitting the market. And sometimes preemptive offers happen and the house is not there on the weekend. And it's a real big bummer when you would have made an offer on this house, but you didn't even get a chance to see it. Set yourself up for success. Schedule the showing right away with your realtor. I would also recommend managing your time on the weekends, because you're definitely going to want to see houses on the weekends. So block off your Saturdays. Plan to make that your time to go out and see the rest of the inventory that wasn't this diehard gotta see now type inventory that I was just speaking of. The more homes that you can get your feet into, the more that you're going to understand the market and your needs as a buyer and what you like and what you don't like. So if you see a home you love, let's say you go to an open house on a Saturday, you're like, this one checks all the boxes, we want to make an offer on this, but the realtor at the open house tells you, look, we're not taking offers until Monday or Tuesday. And so you think you have a lot of time. The reality is you may not, because preemptive offers happen all the time right there. It could go off the market that evening. So contact your realtor, say, hey, we're interested in making an offer on this home. And they're going to be able to best advise you of whether or not to run the fire drill to submit the offer that evening or the next day, or even on the standard offer review day. Speaking of open houses, this brings me to myth number 5. Myth number 5 is that there is no open house etiquette. So I have a tip for you. You want the listing agent who's holding the house open that you're walking through, you want them to like you. Turns out you want to be kind, you want to be polite, you want to be courteous, you want to save the really hard questions for your realtor, not for them. Do ask, do they have a disclosure package? Can they walk you to go see any of the big red flag items in the home if there are any? It can be a lot easier to understand a crack in the foundation if they show you the crack, because a lot of times when things are in print, they sound a little scary. So having the agent walk you through go see those things and point them out personally can be really helpful. Now, a couple of nevers. Never insult the property to the listing agent. And by the way, there's probably a Ring doorbell somewhere nearby where they can hear all your conversations. So we'll talk more about that in a minute, but do not insult the property. Wait to talk about that while you're in the car or whatever. Now, you also don't want to bring your dog to the property. Keep your dog at home or in the car if it's weather's okay, or have somebody else take them on a walk and take turns. The other thing you want to do is if you have children, you just wanted to monitor your children, make sure they're not breaking the staging gear. This happens all the time. A lot of times the beds are faux beds. They're not real beds, and children will get up there and jump on the beds. So I have kids on my own, I get it, but just be careful and monitor your children when you go through the open house. So now let's talk more about those cameras on the house. They're probably inside the house or outside the house. And so don't have your secret discussion with your partner or with your realtor about price when you're even outside the house. Go way far away, back out to the street and have this conversation, or wait till you're on the phone, because those microphones can pick up a lot more than you think. Believe it or not, sellers love listening in on these conversations. You can just imagine them with their popcorn, their nice special drink, and they're just sitting back watching all these buyers come in talking about their home. When they hear what these buyers are saying about their home, that might actually impact things if it's done in a negative way. Or if you're saying, hey, you know what? I would pay $300,000 more for this house than the list price. That's not going to be great either. So hold the comments, make them neutral while you're in the home. Save that for the street side, for the car ride home, and then have those conversations. So now you finally found the house that you really want to buy. Make sure you call your agent right away and let them know. I think it's really important that your realtor walks through the home with you ideally and discusses the strengths of the house and the struggles of the house, because you might only walk through 5 to 20 houses a year, but your realtor is walking through hundreds and hundreds of homes a year. And they know a good house when they see it. They shouldn't be trying to sell you on every home. They should really be objective resource for you. And if they can't walk through it with you, that's fine, but just see if they can walk through the home on their own time and then discuss that list with you over the phone. Myth number 6 is that you can make an offer without an agent. So if you don't have an agent and you're coming into an open house, I'm gonna be very honest with you. It's going to be really difficult for you. I see this all the time on the listings when I'm holding an open house. Buyers come in, they fall in love with the house. Offers are due in 2 days. I ask them if they have an agent and they don't, and they want to move forward with the purchase of the house. How can you really get your act together with all the things we've mentioned on this video in those 2 days? So it's not to say that it can't happen, but trying to get pre-approved, up to speed on the market, where the comps are at, going through the disclosure, picking an agent, like all those things in a very short amount of time, that's a lot of pressure, and that doesn't put you in a good situation. And I will say most of the time, those buyers without an agent, they either can't move fast enough or they just show up not really well prepared to make a very good offer to win. If I had to guess, I would think that one of the things that's on these buyers' minds is that they want to work with the listing agent, and they think that they might have a competitive advantage if they work with the listing agent. Well, there's this thing in Washington State called dual agency, and most realtors don't want to really mess around at all with dual agency. They will not represent a buyer and a seller at the same time. And so we just won't do it. When we are asked to do that, I say no, absolutely not, because I'm representing the seller. How can I, in good conscience, represent the seller and the buyer at the same time? So my recommendation is to find a realtor that you trust and that can take you through the education process and set you up for success. And I'll save this for another video and another time because it's a really long-winded answer, but this is a really bad idea to come to an open house without an agent and expect that you can get your offer accepted. If you have the time, it's a great idea to go to the house multiple times, because you're gonna notice on your second and your third visit, you're gonna notice things that you wouldn't have noticed before. Maybe you notice that the house next door is under construction, or there's a school on the block, or there's a restaurant next door. And you're also going to notice the kind of people that hang around outside when you come back multiple times. Safety is definitely something that is very personal preference, and it's something that only really you can know, and only you can decide how you feel about an area or a home after you visit it multiple times. So the other thing you want your realtor to do is call to see how competitive this house is going to be, how many showings they've had, how many inspections they've had requested is all really good information. You want to find out from the other realtor why the owner is selling, and if there's anything they're looking for in their offer. Yes, they probably want the highest and best price, but sometimes sellers want things like rent back, and they want to stay in the house 30 to 60 days post-closing because they are trying to find their next house. So all these these things can really help set your offer apart from the pack so that you can create a successful offer and get the house that you really want. The next thing that you're going to want to do is review the inspection and the disclosure package with your realtor. Hopefully you're working with a realtor that's going to provide you with this information or tell you how to get it. And you're going to want to discuss with your realtor, are there any red flag items in this house? Does it have a siding issue? Does it have a foundation issue? How old is the roof? These are all important things to know when you're purchasing a big investment like this. If your realtor is doing a good job, it takes them about 8 hours from the time that you tell them that you want to write an offer until they submit the offer. Because they got to look at the comps, they got to discuss all these things with you about the inspection, the seller disclosure. So again, the sooner you let your realtor know that you're interested in this property, the earlier they can begin this process. You don't really want to run a fire drill that's in an hour or two. Yes, they could probably pull it off, but you're going to be shortcut on some information you're going to be missing, and that's not a good way to purchase a huge investment. So my recommendation is let them know right away so that you can get all the information and you can make the best informed decision. Myth number 7 is that you need to decide a solid price on what you're willing to pay for the house right before you submit your offer. And I hear this from buyers all the time. They're like, well, we certainly don't want to go above this number. And I get it. I bought lots of homes before. I know how this works. But the reality is that on offer date, it may become apparent to you that somebody else is willing to pay more than your number. And if you hold to that number, what you're going to find out is that the next house, it's probably going to be very similar to one that you wanted to buy. It's actually going to sell for more than the house you're currently looking at. So the way to get a better deal is actually not by painting yourself into a corner and deciding that you'll not go above this price, but rather buy the house. That is, if you fall in love with a house and it's within reach, even if it stretches your budget just a little bit, it's a smart move to buy now. Real estate prices are likely to rise in the future, so purchasing sooner can save you actually money, and it can help secure the dream home that you love before the prices go up. Another thing you want to make sure of is that on offer review date, you need to make sure that your schedule is really light and that you are available, because oftentimes your realtor needs to get in touch with you at a drop of a hat, and if you're not readily available on text or through phone call or email, then that house is most likely going to go to somebody else, because if you are in a competitive situation, decisions are being made really quickly and you might drop out of the running without even really knowing it. Another thing you might not be aware of is that counter offers are actually not always done on paper. There's a lot of talk and conversation called soft conversations, I would say like 70% of the time, that are happening not on paper. So if your agent can't get in touch with you, more than likely they're going to move on to another agent, and the next buyer that's available and ready is going to make it happen. Myth number 8 is that the agent that you choose to work with really doesn't matter. And maybe you want to work with a realtor friend in Tacoma to represent you in Bellevue or Redmond, and they really don't know the area. They don't really have the expertise to bring. Or maybe a friend of yours just got into real estate. Here's the reality. The reputation of your realtor matters. It matters a great deal. Agents want to work with agents who they trust, who they know have prepared their buyer, who have the expertise, who they have great confidence in that they're going to bring a buyer that is actually going to come all the way to the closing table and get the deal done. And so the agent's reputation matters, their pulse on the market matters, their ability to communicate with you. And with so many agents to choose from in the greater Seattle area, this actually might be the most important decision that you make when you go purchase a home. So if you're interested in learning more about buying a home in Seattle, please check out my blog. I have more information posted there. And you could also check out my social media accounts. There's lots of good stuff on there as well. And if you have any questions about the content or that I maybe didn't cover perhaps, feel free to ask in the comments section below. Make sure you smash the subscribe button. I would love to be your realtor of choice, and I'm available through phone call or text. So don't be shy and don't hesitate to reach out. I would love to help you find your next home. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.